Most people think starting a shoe brand means designing a cool sneaker, finding a factory. That's it. Sketch it, email a factory, collect the money. And that's exactly why I've watched founders burn through $15,000 before ever seeing a sellable shoe, sometimes more. Here's the truth. The design is the easy part. The gap between a sketch and a finished pair of shoes sitting in your warehouse. And that's where brands live or die. We've spent 30 years on the factory floor working with Fortune 500 retailers and independent brand founders. And in that time, we've seen the same 7 phases determine whether someone ships their first order or just ships their savings to a factory they'll never hear from again. Today, I'm going to walk you through every single one of these 7 phases in order so you know exactly what happens from idea to first shipment. This is not a masterclass, it's a roadmap. For each phase, I have separate deep dive videos if you want to go further. I'll link those below. But by the end of this video, you'll have the entire picture and you'll know which phase is going to be hardest for your brand specifically. Let's start from the beginning. Here's the biggest mistake new brand founders make. They send a sketch to a factory and ask for a quote. A sketch is not a tech pack. It's a napkin drawing. And if you send a napkin drawing to a factory, 2 things can happen. First, they ignore you because you don't look serious. Second, if they do respond, the price they quote you is imaginary. They're pricing the shoe they think you want, not the shoe you actually want. A tech pack, a proper one, is what turns your idea into something a factory can actually build, cost, and price. Here's what it needs to include. First, technical flat sketches. Front side view, top view, back view, not artistic renderings. Blueprints. Second, a bill of materials. This is the ingredient list. So what leather, what mesh for the upper, what density EVA for the midsole, what rubber compound for the outsole, what kind of eyelets, what kind of laces. Every single material, right down to the stitching thread spec. Third, measurement by size. A size 9 isn't just a slightly bigger size 8. The proportions shift. Your tech pack needs a graded size chart. 4, color codes, not red, Pantone 186C. Factories work in precise references, not adjectives. Fifth, construction details. How is the sole attached? Cemented? Vulcanized? Sidewall stitch? This changes the production line setup completely. And finally, this is the one most brand founders skip, a preliminary defect list. You need to define in writing what counts as a defect before production starts. Because if it's not in writing, it may not exist in the factory's eyes. Let me be direct with you. If you don't have a tech pack, you're not ready to talk to factories, period. You can use someone like me, or you can use one of the online services that specialize in this. But don't skip this phase. Once the tech pack is done, you move to phase 2, finding the right factory. Now, this is where the real work begins. Where do you find a shoe factory? There are 4 main channels. Trade shows like MICAM in Milan, Magic in Las Vegas, Canton Fair in Guangzhou. And we're walking the floor, looking at samples, having conversations. Or direct sourcing platforms like Alibaba, 1688.com, but with heavy filtering, industry-specific databases that require vetting, and referral networks, other brand founders, sourcing agents, supply chain consultants. But finding a factory is maybe 20% of the job. The other 80 is in figuring out whether they're actually capable of making your shoes. When you're evaluating a factory, you're not just asking for their price sheet. You're running a miniature investigation. Now there's 5 questions, at least 5 questions that you should be asking. Question 1, do you specialize in my product category? A factory that makes 90% athletic sneakers is not going to build you a great dress shoe. The production line, the machinery, the worker skills, they're all different. Ask them to show you samples they've made that are similar to what you want. Question 2, do you own the factory or are you a trading company? Now, trading companies might add a marginal layer without adding additional production value. And there's certain reasons maybe you would like to go to a trading company or a supply chain agent or whatnot. There's different reasons or values that they can provide. But before you figure out whether you should work with a trading company or an agent, whomever you're asking, you want to know who actually controls the factory floor so you have a realistic view of the whole situation. Question 3, what is your minimum order quantity per style and per color? So we'll get deeper into MOQs in phase 3, but you need to know this number up front. If they say no MOQ, be suspicious. Factories have real setup costs. So someone who says there's no minimum is either lying or planning to make it up somewhere else. Question 4. Can you provide references from existing clients in my region? And then actually call those references. Ask about communication quality, on-time delivery rates, and how the factory handled problems. Question 5. What's your current lead time for a first production order? If they quote you 4 weeks, they may either be over-promising or they're not busy, and that's probably a reason they're not busy. Here's something I've learned after visiting over 100 factories. Look at the floor, not the showroom. The showroom is always clean. Look at the actual production floor. Are the materials organized or scattered? Are the cutting dies maintained or rusted? Do the workers look focused or checked out? You can learn a lot more about the factory in 5 minutes on the production floor than in 2 hours meeting in the conference room. One thing before we move on, do not send money before you have a signed agreement or some sort of written agreement. I've seen too many founders wire a deposit based on an email and a handshake. That's not trust. That's a headache tax waiting to happen. This is the phase that breaks most brand founders' spreadsheets and their confidence. When a factory quotes you a price, that's your FOB cost. Free on board. It means that the shoes are loaded onto a ship at the port of origin. That's it. It does not include freight, does not include duties, does not include warehousing, and it definitely does not include the cost of fixing problems when they arrive. So let's talk numbers. In 2026, a standard casual sneaker manufactured in China, basic leather upper, rubber outsole, your FOB cost is going to land somewhere between $15, $35, depending on different material and the quality of the material. But a technical running shoe with specialized midsoles might be higher. A simple canvas sneaker, lower. The material cost is typically maybe 50, 60% of the FOB. In that case, 20 to 25% labor. Factory overhead and margin may make up the rest. But here's the headline tax. Your first order almost never costs what you budgeted. Why? The MOQ, minimum order quantity. If the factory's MOQ is 12,000 pairs per color, per style, and you wanted to launch with 3 colors in 6 sizes, you do the math. That's 3,600 pairs. So if you just sign up for over 3,000 pairs before you've sold a single one. Now here's how you negotiate this. You don't just say, can I have a lower MOQ? You offer something in exchange. Maybe you accept a higher FOB price for a lower MOQ. The factory needs to cover their setup costs somewhere, and they'd rather do it through price than volume. Maybe you consolidate colors, launch with 1 or 2 instead of 5. Maybe you use stock material instead of custom dyed ones. Custom materials have their own MOQ that cascades through your order. The principle is this: the factory wants the business. You want flexibility. There's a middle ground, but you have to find it with data, not with, I promise I'll order more next time. One final point on cost. Your FOB price is roughly 20-25% of what your shoe will be retailed for. The rest is freight, duties, warehousing, marketing, and your margin. If your FOB is $20, your shoe really needs to retail for at least $80 to $100 to have a sustainable business. That's the math. The napkin math a lot of founders do. Factory said $12, I'll sell for $80. I'm rich. That math is lying to you. Your first sample is going to disappoint you. I'm not saying this to discourage you. I'm saying it so you don't panic when it happens, because it happens to everybody. The first sample is the factory's translation of your tech pack, and translations are never perfect on the first pass. The stitching might be slightly off, the material might feel different than you expected, the color might not match your Pantone reference exactly, the toe shape might be a little too round or a little too sharp. That's normal. The sample phase is not about getting it right the first time. It's about having a structured process for getting it to right by the third time. Here's how to handle it. First, categorize each issue into one of 3 buckets. Reject means that this is a fatal flaw. Wrong last shape, structural defect, completely wrong material. The sample is not acceptable and must be remade with a clear correction. Accept with correction means that the item is functionally acceptable, but needs tuning. A stitch line that should be 2 millimeters tighter, a color that's 1 shade off. Approve means this is what you want. Lock it down. No changes. The factory needs this feedback to be written, specific, and unambiguous. Make it better is not feedback. Move the stitch line 3 millimeters closer to the edge and use TX40 thread instead of TX30. That's feedback. In my experience, you should budget for 2 to 3 rounds of samples before signing off on production. Round 1, you see the factory's interpretation. You give heavy feedback. Round 2, most issues resolved, 1 or 2 remaining. Round 3, final tweaks, then approval. Each round takes time, anywhere from 3 to 6 weeks, sometimes more if materials are custom. This is why the timeline from idea to first order is rarely under 6 months. Once you approve the final sample, you sign off on what's called the sealed sample or confirmation sample. This is now the legal reference standard. The factory must match it, and if they don't, you have the evidence in your hands to reject the shipment. Your shoes are now in production. This is the most dangerous phase because a lot of the founders go quiet here. They approve the sample, they wire the deposit, they wait for the shipping notification. Do not do that. Production is where defects multiply. A small problem on the sample bench becomes a big problem when it's repeated across 3,000 pairs. You need 3 quality control checkpoints, and you need them in your contract from the start. Checkpoint 1, inline inspection. This happens while production is running, usually at 20-30% completion. An inspector walks the floor, pulls random pairs off the line, and checks them against the sealed sample and your spec sheet. If there's a systematic issue, say the stitching tension is wrong, or the glue application is inconsistent, you catch it early, not when the container is already on the water. Checkpoint 2, pre-shipment inspection or PSI. This is the big one. When production is 80 to 100% finished, an inspector pulls a random sample from the packed cartons, usually using the AQL standard. AQL stands for acceptable quality level. For footwear, the standard is typically around AQL 2.5 for major defects and AQL 4.0 for minor defects. Critical defects, anything that makes the shoe unsafe or unwearable, have a 0 tolerance. One critical defect and the entire lot fails. If you're working with a tight budget, you don't necessarily need a third-party inspector for everyone, but you need someone, at minimum, detail photos from the factory floor at each checkpoint, reviewed against your sealed sample. Checkpoint 3, the loading check. Right before the container is sealed, a final walkthrough to make sure the right quantities, the right carton markings, and no last-minute surprises. You'd be amazed how often the factory makes a running change after the PSI, a different lace supplier, a different packaging insert, because they ran out of something and assumed it didn't matter. It matters. Every change after final approval needs to come to you in writing. You have finished shoes. You need to have them get into your country without getting destroyed by hidden costs you didn't plan for. First decision, who handles the freight? The factory can arrange it, but here's the problem. When the factory controls shipping, you lose visibility. They choose the forwarder, they choose the route, they consolidate your order with other shipments to save costs, and your 3-week estimate becomes 6. I recommend you use your own freight forwarder, someone who works for you, not for the factory. Yes, it requires more coordination, but you get accurate tracking. You control the timeline, and you're not paying a markup on freight that the factory buried in their quote. Second, duties. Every shoe type has an HS code, harmonized system code, that determines your import duty rate. Leather shoes with a rubber sole, one rate. Canvas athletic shoes, different rate. Hiking boots, different again. The ballpark in 2026 for footwear imported into the US is roughly 6 to 20% of FOB value, depending on the exact classification. But this is not a number you guess. Use the USITC HTS search tool. It's free, it's online, and it's the only source that matters. I'll link it in the description. Third, compliance. So if you're importing into the United States, you need to understand the new CPSC eFiling rule. As of July 2026, the Consumer Product Safety Commission now requires electronic filing of certificates of compliance at the time of import for regulated consumer goods, including footwear. This is not optional, and the penalties are real. For adult footwear, the requirements are standard. General Product Safety Certification. But if you're making children's shoes, you're now subject to additional tracking labels, third-party testing requirements, and stricter lead content limits. This is an entire video territory, and I actually have a full CPSC e-filing walkthrough linked below if you need that deep dive. For now, know this: compliance is not something you handle after you get the shipment notice. You plan for it during phase 1. The container arrives. You unload the pallets. You open the first carton. If you've done phases 1 through 6 correctly, what you see should match your sealed sample. But you still need to do a receiving inspection, a spot check of multiple cartons to confirm nothing shifted between the container being sealed and it arriving at your door. Temperature, humidity, rough handling, all these can affect finished shoes. Now, where do these shoes live? You have 2 paths. Option 1, self-fulfillment. You store them, you pick them, you pack them, you ship them. Total control, and your costs are basically storage plus shipping labels. But you're also the bottleneck. If your brand takes off and you're suddenly doing 200 orders a day, your spare bedroom stops being cute and starts being a business emergency. Option 2, a third-party logistics provider, or 3PL. They handle warehousing, picking, packing, and returns. The main benefit is that it frees up your time to focus on marketing, product development, and growth. The things that actually build the brand. The downside, per unit fulfillment costs are higher, and communication with some 3PLs can be famously frustrating. My recommendation for a first-time brand: start with self-fulfillment for your first order. Learn how your customers behave, what sizes sell first, what return reasons come up, what packaging holds up. Then, when you hit a volume where fulfillment becomes your full-time job, transition to a 3PL with real data about what you need. And here's the final trap: the second ordering time. After your first order arrives, there's a natural instinct to wait to see how sales go, reorder when inventory gets low. But remember, production takes 3 to 4 months. If you wait until week 8 of sales to reorder, you're going to be out of stock for 2 months. And an out of stock brand is a brand customers forget. The math is this: as soon as your sales data shows you're selling through roughly 60% of your inventory before a new production run can arrive, you place the reorder, not at 80%. Not when you feel like you should, at 60%. So here's the complete roadmap. 7 phases: design and tech pack, factory sourcing and vetting, costing and MOQ, sampling, production and QC, shipping and compliance, receiving and ordering. If you do these 7 things in this order, you will avoid the expensive mistakes that we've watched brand founders make for 30 years. You still won't get everything perfect on your first attempt. Nobody does. But you'll get it right enough to ship sellable shoes, build a real business, and place your second order. Now, this video covered the roadmap. For each phase, I have deeper walkthroughs. Some are already on the channel, and some are coming. I'll link the relevant ones in the description, and you might see some on the end screen. If you want to go deeper right now, if you have a specific brand concept, a tech pack you want reviewed, or you're trying to figure out which factory strategy fits your product, the link to work with us directly is in the description. We act as supply chain architects for brand founders from first sample to million unit production. Hit subscribe if you want more insider manufacturing strategy. Leave a comment with the phase that scares you the most. I read everyone and it helps me know what to make next. And I'll see you in the next one. Thank you.